Hi, my name is Taylor Pettit. I am a 2014 Corps member located in the Louisiana Delta, applying for RSLA. I currently teach third grade at Knowlton Elementary in Knowlton, Louisiana. The first interview question was, why do you want to lead others in a school? I think this can be put pretty simply. I want to lead others in order to ensure student success. I find joy in making sure our students are held to high expectations and making sure their educational experience is positive and a good use of their time. I think that student success can be met through urgency, efficiency, and strength or grit. I think utilizing these three things within a leadership experience is really important. Having others apply those values to their classrooms, I think, creates a lot of student success. If you are making every minute as effective as possible and making sure your day runs smoothly, I think students benefit from that. And I think encouraging others to apply that philosophy is very beneficial. I also think having the value of strength as part of a school culture is incredibly important. When you walk into a school day, knowing that it is going to be hard, but knowing that you can persevere, your day is always going to be a success when you make it through. I think applying that culture only allows students to benefit and teachers. I also want to lead others into school because, honestly, I have experienced effective and ineffective leadership. I would love the opportunity to be an effective leader. I would love the opportunity to help others find their personal strengths in their classroom and help others find a part in a school culture that is all working towards the same thing, which is student success. The second question was, why do you have a particular passion to lead in a rural region? I honestly did not grow up in a rural area. I grew up in suburban New Jersey, but I went to college in Eastern Kentucky University, which is where the TFA Appalachia region is located. I hadn't really had any exposure to rural life, small town life before that. I worked as a journalist when I was in college, and I got a lot of exposure to rural life. And I found that small towns there, just like small towns where I currently teach in the Louisiana Delta, they have a lot of things in common. One of the things that they have in common that I love is simply a small town feel. Everyone knows everyone, and everyone is a part of everyone's lives. If you are the local teacher in a small town, you aren't just a teacher that walks into school. You're a friendly face at the gas station. You're a friendly face at the grocery store. And people see you as a part of their community. I would assume that that's different other places. I would assume that a teacher isn't always a major part of the community. They may just be a part. But I know in my town and what I saw in Eastern Kentucky, teachers are an incredibly important part of the community. They're the people that spend all day with your children, and you want to know them by name. You want to know what they do in their free time. And I enjoy that. I really love that I get to see my students all the time. I love that they're my neighbors. I love that their parents are my coworkers. I think that experience of being able to talk to a parent casually as you go to the grocery store is awesome and special. I think being a leader in that context is even more amazing. It allows you to be part of every student's life in every facet. I think that's really special. Another thing that I really think is special about leading in a rural region is the fact that it is easier in many ways to bring the history and culture of a small town into the classroom. And what I mean by that is, in my experience, I grew up right outside New York City. I was exposed to a lot of culture and a lot of history, but it was in a museum. It was labeled. It was a place that you went and you looked at and you were told, this is this historical thing. But it's very different here. The reality is that many things aren't preserved and many things are lost in the historical record. But you can also bring your students to these places that are still here. One example locally is Poverty Point, which is a very important historical site that's just down the road from us, which any student that learns about Native American history has the opportunity to see. That is a preserved site, but there's so much history there that is just around the corner. And I think that for students living in other contexts that aren't rural, they maybe don't get as many opportunities to just drive down the road and see things like that. I also think that the rural experience has tons of assets that you can bring into the classroom. I mean, one example, as a third grade teacher, we talk a lot about plants and nature and the life cycle of seeds and different things like that, as many elementary teachers do. I have been incredibly fortunate to have farmers come into my classroom and talk about their daily existence working with the seed cycle. That's their business. That's what they do. When teaching Louisiana economics, I only need to point outside my classroom window to discuss one of our most important crops, which is cotton. My students' familiarity with that is awesome, and something that is very different from kids who are living in other parts of the state that maybe have never seen a cotton field before. I think leading in a rural region is special. You are able to expose your students to kind of the hidden gems to the world around them. They have so many awesome assets at their fingertips that maybe aren't being utilized as much as they should be, but are definitely available. I think being a leader, one thing that is really important is finding those assets within your individual rural community and applying them to your students' lives. Seeing the things that they assume are part of their normal everyday life that are just the status quo, that are actually great educational experiences. I think those are really important. Going back to what I said before about it being a small town feel as well, I think that's an asset as well. One thing I currently love about where I teach is the fact that if I need to talk to a guardian of a child, it's not like I have one phone number and one face that I can connect with. Everyone knows I'm so-and-so's teacher, and everyone knows that they can come talk to me about that child and I can go talk to them. It's kind of corny, but it takes a village to raise a child, and I feel like that's so true in small town rural life. And I think that those people are also truly an awesome asset. For example, our local clinic, which is the only medical care really within an hour, the local doctors and nurses and practitioners at that facility are always interested in coming in and talking to my students, which I think is something that maybe other places can experience. Many teachers living in a city or a town could call a local doctor to come in. But the fact that when the local doctor comes in, all my kids know that that's their doctor who's talking to them about health and about the nervous system, that's a really special experience, and I really enjoy being part of that. The last question was if your principal or current administrator, janitor, colleague, and parent, student parent could describe you in one word, what word would that be? Is that word accurate? And if not, that word is not accurate, why is it not accurate? And why do you think they chose that word? So I'm going to start with my principal. I think if Miss McCarthy was asked to describe me in one word, I think that she would say I am driven. I think she would say I'm driven because I am constantly asking her for guidance and how I can become a better, more effective teacher. But not only for me personally, for the trajectory of our students. Because our school is so small, we only have one teacher per grade and one class per grade. I know the students I'm getting every single year. I see them every day. They're in the classroom next door. I know the kids I'll have 4 years from now. There's never any question of if they'll end up with someone else. They will be my students. And because of that, I am always interested in what they're learning and what practices they're getting used to and how I can apply that for when they reach my classroom. I think that she would say I'm driven because I also am always seeking more opportunities to learn more. I am a second year teacher and I did not study education in college. So I have so much to learn and I want to know as much as possible. Um, I am trying to become the most effective teacher I can be at all times. And I think that she sees that. So I would say that is accurate. I do think I'm pretty driven. I obviously am interested in leadership and I'm interested in best practices. What is the newest research? What are we learning about the way students learn? What new policies, procedures, strategies can I implement in my classroom to make my students' educational experience more worthwhile? That's something I'm constantly asking myself. And I think that requires someone to be driven to be better every single day. I think if you asked Mr. Thomas, our school janitor, to describe me in one word, he would probably say busy. Unfortunately, I don't get as much time as I would like to build relationships with people like Mr. Thomas. Of course, I say good morning to him, and I see him when he comes into my classroom, but I only get a planning period every other day for 20 minutes, and I utilize every second of that 20 minutes, which means I'm usually rushing around the building. Like I said, unfortunately, this doesn't leave a lot of time to build those relationships with a lot of really important people in our school, but I try my best to make sure they know I appreciate them. But I would guess he would say I'm busy because he's always just seeing me rush past him with a wave and a hello and a how are you. There's not a lot of time to talk. I unfortunately would also say that that is accurate. I am very busy. There is a lot to be done, and like I said, my planning time during the week is very limited. So I try to be as efficient as possible, and that means getting things done when I have a minute, which is not often. I think if you asked a colleague to describe me in one word, they would say invested. I think they would say this word because I am very visible when it comes to my students. I make it clear that my personal cell phone number is open to students and parents. I'm constantly answering text messages about homework, questions about the Girl Scout troop I run. I tutor twice a week after school. I make home visits frequently. I try to attend basketball games and football games and church events and other things around town because I am invested in my students' lives. I think the classroom experience is much more successful if you are visible and children know that you care about them, not just how they do on a test or where their clip is on the clip chart in class, but that you care about their well-being and what their lives are like. And that means putting in that extra time to show you care. I think being invested is part of who I am. The last one was a parent. I have to say, I think parents would describe me as firm. I picked this word because it has been an expectation in our community that teachers are strict and handle discipline, but that they do it with love. And I try very, very hard to meet that expectation. This means that I have very high expectations for my students, even though they're 8 years old. And I make that clear to parents. If that means I have to make home visits, if that means I have to meet up with parents at work or after work or before work, if that means I send letters home, I require homework agendas signed. These are all expectations that they are held to. There are no excuses. There are no I can'ts. You will and you can is always my policy. But I do believe all of that is done with love. You do those things and you have those expectations because you want the best for your kids. And I want the best for my kids. I want the best for the children of my parents. I think firm in our context is a really big compliment. So I hope that it's accurate. I try very hard to make sure my students know that I will not let them fail, and that is because I love them. That is the end of my interview. Thank you for your time.